We've got a last kilometre pile up to deal with, roadside concussion tests. Hopefully Jordi Meijers is alright, and complete chaos in this final sprint with a reverse lead out. No one wanting to chase. Play the beat. Taka 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 Tata is where this stage in the Tour de Hongrie finishes. Stage 3, 142 kilometres long. Some climbing in the first third of the stage, but it will be a sprint finish once again. Take note of the final 2 kilometres. We have a right, left, left, and then the final turn is a 100-degree turn with about 800 to 900 metres to go, and that will be a pivotal point in this race. Before they started, we had about 6 people cutting the ribbon. I want you to focus closely on the man in the pink shirt with the grey hair and the glasses in the middle, and this guy who's about to ruin his day. This reminds me of when my dad never let me win with the cracker at Christmas. Well, you see this man, he's left with nothing. His disappointment is immeasurable and his day is ruined. He asks, can I get one of them with some writing on it? They don't let him have it, and I actually feel pretty bad for the fella, whilst the guy who got it all laughs next to him. But anyway, the stage rolled out, a predictable breakaway went with a lot of the Conti and local riders trying to mop up the intermediate sprint points. Group of about 5 riders with a 3-minute lead with 80 k's to go after they completed the hilly circuit. The second KOM points for the day were at Panon Alma Argabi with about 74 k's to go, but the group continued to stay together. Large crowds here at Tour de Hongrie, which is fantastic to see. 21 k's to go, now the gap only at 45 seconds in the last intermediate sprint at Oroslani. Yeah, look at the crowds on the side of the road. Kids watching. Seems to be quite a well-attended race in Tour de Hongrie. But this was going to be a sprint. 40-second gap to the peloton. They were going to bring this down pretty quickly. Banaszek taking the intermediate sprint points. And I want to remind you of that corner, which we're about to get into with 800 meters to go. It is going to cause this finish to be absolute carnage because it's off camber. Bahrain have 3 riders going first through that corner. Don't worry, I'll play it in slow motion again with freeze frames in case you didn't see what happened exactly. But it's Heinrich Hausler first wheel through this corner. He's got behind him Fred Wright, and then Bauhaus is in the green jersey. Olav Koy is the second Jumbo-Visma rider you can see in front of Martinelli, the Astana rider. Look at the slope of this corner. This is not the camera angle, it's actually pretty well set, this camera. It is an off-camber corner, meaning that the contact area for their front tires in particular, that surface area is smaller than if it was just a flat, normal section of flat road. And Olav Koy, his front wheel is going to wash away. Maybe he clipped Martinelli's front wheel with his back wheel, and that meant he had nowhere to go. At this moment, he's already starting to crash. He didn't take out Michael Ryan, who's behind Bauhaus, and then his other lead-out man on his left being taken out, another rider from ISU. His front wheel slipped away in the off-camber section, and that was the massive crash. So we're left with about 10 or 12 riders in this front group, and it's mostly all the really strong sprinters. Bauhaus in the green with Halverson for Uno X, Ryan, Taj Jones, Martinelli, Timothy Dupont, and Jordi Wallop. So Bahrain have the most numbers and the strongest lead-out, it must be said, in the race. Anyway, Hausler begins his kick proper with about 500 meters to go. Bauhaus fourth wheel in a perfect position, Turnison way at the back of this group, and Fred Wright in second wheel begins to sneak up the inside of Hausler, and you can see he stops pedaling for a bit, and the camera angle then changes to the front on. We didn't see the exact moment where Fred Wright passes Hausler, but Mick van Dijk for Jumbo's lost the wheel of Fred Wright, who's kicked. Maybe Hausler shut the door a little bit behind Fred Wright, and Van Dijk is looking behind, and he just sees Bauhaus staring at him saying, I'm not going to close that gap to my lead-out man. Turnison's at the back of this group, so a reverse lead-out starts for Bahrain with Fred Wright, who's got a strong kick and is a good sprinter in his own right, the young British rider. Turnison tries to jump across that gap, which is the only way to do it. You don't want to bring the whole sprint field on your wheel unless you're Caleb Ewan and you just don't care because you're going to win the stage anyway. Bauhaus clawing his way back to Turnison's wheel. We'll replay it from a different angle. Photo finish. Turnison thinks he's won the stage, but has he? Van Dijk is mad at himself for losing the wheel of Fred Wright, which put Turnison in a difficult position. Bauhaus doesn't know whether he's won or not, and you can see it better from this angle. It's a bit of a dipper with 175 to go. It starts to go downhill, and this is not a criticism, more just an observation. At this point, Fred Wright, it would be better for him if he stopped sprinting, because Turnison is about to close to his wheel, and it's 125 meters to go. He's not winning the stage at this point, with Tønnesen having already closed that much. So he's effectively just giving a lead out to Tønnesen if he keeps sprinting. He's better off stopping sprinting, which will force Tønnesen to go into the wind for longer. Bauhaus was gapped off Tønnesen's wheel. He makes it back, and just this little rise at the end might have cost Tønnesen. What I don't know is, did Tønnesen sit up at all? It's very difficult to say. He does one check under his right-hand shoulder here, where he surely must know Bauhaus is closing fast. But then he gets back in the saddle, checks again, and gets out of the saddle. And that might have been, that moment's hesitation, the difference between winning or losing this stage. He's ahead, and then he's not. In the last meter, Phil Bauhaus wins this stage as a 26-year-old German in front of Mike Tønnesen, Tour de France stage winner. And here's the photo finish where you can see it clearly. Do you think, because Tønnesen was doing lead-out duties for Olav Koy, who crashed, that Tønnesen didn't put on the Jumbo-Visma Laser Aero helmet? He's wearing their normal road helmet. Did that cost him this stage? Aero experts, he's lost by 2-3 inches. Would that have made the difference, given that he had to close Fred Wright in the wind for a couple of 100 meters? And I mentioned this at the start. This is the impromptu concussion test with Rudiger Selig doing it for Jordi Meus, who's crashed. Now, you remember Rudiger Selig, he's one of the riders that went to check on August Jensen after his heavy crash in Scheldeprace last year. Rudiger Selig seems to be a pretty stand-up guy from what I can see. But here's the full results from Tour de Hongrie Stage 3. Bauhaus out of Tønnesen, Wright, Martinelli, Michael Ryan, Waller, Dupont, Halverson, Passioni, Taj Jones. Today's stage is the only mountaintop test, 204 Ks, finishing up to 12.1 K, 5.6% climb to Kekesh Teto. Sorry about the pronunciation. If you're missing out on my Giro d'Italia coverage, don't worry, I tried to get the rights, but just wasn't possible at this time. We cover every stage on the Lanterne Rouge cycling podcast on YouTube as well. We've got photos of the stage, profiles, etc. if you prefer watching on YouTube. But otherwise, hope you're well, and I'll see you after the big mountain stage in Hungary tomorrow. Ciao.